Heyo everybody, Haku here with my review for Tower of God Chapter 411, or Season 2 Episode 331. So this one, we have a lot to talk about. I'm going to try to kind of be like sticking to the bullet points that I take for notes every time to make sure I hit everything in order, because there is so much to talk about that I really don't want to leave out anything that I thought was important, but there is a lot of discussion to be had. I think reading week to week for the channel, I may have just read one of the best chapters the series has put out so far. I really think it's that good. I feel like this Calavan and Ginseng stuff, this fight is going to go down as one of the more iconic moments, iconic fights in Tower of God. But I'll get to all that. So let me talk about it part by part and stop getting ahead of myself. So to start from the beginning, I thought that this was an amazing chapter, like among amazing chapters. You know, I've been saying a lot recently about how the series has been really great for a long time now, for a good few arcs. But even among those good few arcs, this chapter hit the transcendental skill on us. So starting from the beginning, every single part of it was great, and the first part of it, Andrasi leaves Rachel and Yura behind. And of course you guys know I'm of the camp that Rachel's a really good antagonist character, a really entertaining character, and the Rachel hate is overplayed to the point where it's annoying sometimes, where it distracts from the actual story being told for some fans. But I thought this was hilarious. I thought it was great. And it totally fits in line with something Andrasi would do. It's kind of unexpected. It adds a little extra twist into what's going on. I loved everything about it. And she did take 6 hostages, and it's interesting to know who the 6 were, because I didn't really pay attention in the live reaction until going back and rereading. But she takes, obviously, Barrow, Boro, Sachi. Paropa was there, Wangnan, obviously, and Traveler. I didn't notice before in the live reaction, or I would have mentioned it, that she took Traveler, but not Yura and Rachel. So maybe it's because she met Traveler before, maybe it's because she just isn't as antagonistic towards Traveler as she is towards Yura and Rachel, for understandable reasons. But either way, I thought that was pretty funny that she did take him, just not the other 2. Barrow then tells her all about what happened with Drac and Irude, or at least that Irude was taken by a ranker named Drac. So there's trouble there. Rian calls and explains the plan, basically, that the station used to be a ship. So what they're going to do, the thing has a teleporter, and they could mean that they can just use the teleporter to teleport certain people, but what I think this means is they're teleporting the entire warship, which could lead into this being part A of a 2-part arc. We go and we have all this big high ranker fighting stuff here, and then once it's teleported, they're going to have to fight off the regular enemies. So it could be leading into a part B for this arc, and maybe some of them will even get separated by all of this. Like, I could see if they can't rescue Irude and Drac decides, well, we failed the objective, so I'm not going to kill you now, I'm just going to keep you around. We could have Irude separated from them. I could see that one totally. So all that happens. We learned that Misang stayed behind with Bomb, or rather she's just still there and Andrasi teleported away. It really hasn't been that long of a time. And Arthur's actually holding back Yu Han-sung. I wasn't expecting this, and this means that, I mean, Arthur is the high priest, so I guess it would make sense that Arthur is some level of strong, but Arthur is a lot stronger than I was expecting if this is the case. Because Yu Han-sung just, like, ran through not just Drac, but I'm thinking of Dorian. Just basically ran through Dorian to get to Chonhee. And Dorian's an assistant division commander, a high ranker, probably anywhere from rank 700 something to 900 something, I don't know. Not as highly ranked as Yuri or Yu Han-sung, but still a high ranker. So if Arthur's actually holding him back, it stands to reason that Arthur is stronger than I took him for, to be honest. I didn't really take any of Arthur's group as fighters, necessarily. So yeah, Arthur must be hella strong, who knew? Karaka then, holy shit, this part is one of the most shocking things in the series in a while for me. When Karaka saves Bomb, holy shit, I wasn't expecting it at all, and then the chapter just keeps hitting me with things I wasn't expecting, really. But Karaka saves Bomb, which I think is amazing because things have totally changed. We have the FUG Slayers, and especially Karaka, who's been trying to screw over Bomb for a while, actually saving him. And it makes sense, of course, because Karaka wants what's best for FUG, and Bomb might be what's best for FUG right at this moment. So I really do love that. Things have totally changed then, but also the arrival of White and Karaka means that things have totally changed once again in the landscape of we're constantly shifting back and forth, like, oh man, Zahard's group, like the army group, definitely has a clear advantage, and then it's like, well no, Bomb's group's pretty OP and numerous, and then Calavan and some others come in, Kun Royale Elliot, and you're like, oh no, Bomb's group is screwed again. And now White and Karaka come in, and again, this is a really good arc where it just keeps shifting back and forth, and it's like, okay, no, Bomb's group actually has more of a chance now again. So all of that's really great. Sharon, I think, is becoming a best girl. Not only, I've always liked the character designs. I really liked when she fought with Evankel. So I like the character in general. She's the first character we've gotten to know from the Ari family. Her abilities are cool. But in addition to that, I've come to think she is maybe top waifu. Like, she's at least up there with other characters like Garam or Albelda. Albelda was a top waifu before this. Or Warian, I guess, too. There's at least one other. Oh yeah, Elaine. Elaine would be up there, too. So, yeah, Best Girl Sharon, looking very cute this chapter. And we learned that they escaped because Evan busted them out, and just little Evan with his giant backpack overshadowing him as he's walking away all cool. So badass. I freaking love Evan. So, White mentions that a random attack hit him in the back or something, and we saw that Sharon's attacks that were blocked by Karaka were coming at Bomb, and Bomb was unleashing a Black March attack. So I think that Bomb's Black March attack is what hit White in the back. So if so, that's a really clever way of writing something that I'll get to in the sort of general discussion, but I do think that's a clever way of writing something. I'll get to it towards the end though, so this is still just kind of the summary area, but yeah, I feel like that's what happened there, was Bomb's attack hit White in the back. But I like this again for White's character, where Bomb doesn't want his help. Bomb's like, you're a freaking monster, dude. You're a demon. I don't want your help. And White's like, I don't want to help you either, man, but I'm keeping a promise. So I like that White is actually, or the Joaquin personality of White is actually keeping his promise to the Albelda personality. Or rather, the new Albelda personality. Again, it's kind of always been confusing what to call the clone, because she is Albelda, but she's also all the other souls combined into Albelda. So yeah, you get the point. Bomb then, again, I've been saying for weeks, Bomb can't use Burnt Chestnut because it left him unconscious last time. That would not be helpful. But Bomb just outright explains here why he can't use Black Chestnut for him. He's like, I could fuse with the Thorn again, maybe, but it could just knock me out, or I could just be knocked out because of it or worn out afterward. So, again, it explains why he can't use that, because his objective is to try to escape, and he can't do that if he wears himself out and passes out again. So he contemplates then, I don't know what the difference would be, but he contemplates if he can fuse with Black March, and I'm like, well, if you can't fuse with the Thorn because you'll get knocked out, Black March is powerful too, wouldn't you also get knocked out fusing with Black March? But either way, and it does make sense, because Bomb can absorb in these powers, it seems, and then use them, so it makes sense that he'd be able to absorb in or fuse with Black March, whatever. We'll see how that actually goes, but I think it makes sense that he'd be able to do it. Calavan then, we jump to that for the rest of the chapter. Calavan fucked Jinsung up with that Transcendental skill and starts just wailing away at him. Calavan is absolutely badass. Jinsung was one of the most badass characters in the series, so to see him getting beaten down pretty badly makes Calavan one of the most badass characters in the series. And in general, given what Calavan was able to do against Jinsung here, it makes me think, does this mean Calavan is like a top tier guy, like at least top 30 ranked or something? Because he was kicking a lot of ass. But I like that we get to learn more about Jinsung, because Jinsung has always seemed like kind of a cool, chill guy. Not really super, like, I don't know, what's the word, super zealous or like a zealot for FUG's cause or anything. But I like that here he says, why would you side with evil like this? where it's showing that he did side with FUG because he considers Zahard the side of evil and FUG the side of good. So I like that we get to see kind of the actual personal opinions of Jinsung leaking out here. And we get an explanation for Calivan that he wants to stop change because change always leads to more pain, more conflict. So again, Calivan is just this... Somebody, it might have been Benny Boy on Discord, said that he's like the patriotic psychopath character. And I think that's a really, really good description. I really like that. And I really like Calivan's character. Calivan is cool as hell as an antagonistic character. But he also may be dying here. I'm not sure yet, but I'm getting ahead of myself again. So we get to see another awesome backrush attack from Calivan. And that's an attack that I loved the first time he did it. And I like seeing it used again. So it's kind of like just part of his normal moveset where he knocks... Jinsung into this blast of Shinsu behind him, so he not only gets hit from the front, but also the back. So, again, really cool move. And we see Jinsung going Transcendental, using his Transcendental skill, which is the Dragon Tiger Gate, and it's his ultimate version of the Flare Wave Explosion technique, something that he never taught to Bomb. And I saw some debate over it, and some people were saying Transcendental skills, not sure about like the translation and everything, but the Transcendental skills seem to be sort of like what you would consider an ultimate move for that person. And also I thought we had seen more than 4, but I tried to look up, and I think this is actually just the 4th one we saw. We saw Macheni's, which was, what was it, the Great Spear of Dawn or something like that. Then we saw Bombs, which was Stardust. Then Calivan's was the Atomic Explosion or Atomic Blast, something like that. And now we have Jinsung's with the Dragon Tiger Gate. So the 4th Transcendental move we've seen, so I guess that's just a character's certain ultimate move. But I'm sure we'll get explanation at some point or another. So yeah, I think that what comes next is probably, again, going to be an amazing iconic moment where Calivan has a hole blasted in his chest and he just shrugs it off and blows off Jinsung's arms. At least that's what it clearly looks like. It looks like he blew his arms off from the panel and then the panel afterward. So yeah, not sure how either are surviving, with a hole in one's chest and the other one's arms blown off and stabbed through the chest by Macheni. Because that's what we end with. Macheni stabs Jinsung through the chest and he falls. Again, another super just unexpected out of nowhere moment, but it totally makes sense. So before I get into some actual discussion on what I think some of this means and my opinions on some of it, one thing I think to note from the blog, I mean, Siyu said in the blog himself, he was like, it was an action chapter, there's not too much to say here this week, even though I think there's a ton to say. But one thing that's important to throw in here from the blog is that Siyu said that Bomb takes powers really easily, but he still has a long way to go when it comes to actually controlling them. And I think that's kind of a cool way to pace it out if that's what we're seeing. If what we're seeing is Bomb grab a bunch of powers right now, and what the story will be in the future is that Bomb's not going to be getting a bunch of power-ups again like what he's getting now. The rest of the series is going to be more about Bomb learning to use those power-ups, learning to use the Thorn or Black March or whatever well. So again, think that could be really good. So time for some actual thoughts. I friggin' loved this. I thought the Rachel stuff was hilarious. I already explained my thoughts on the character or whatever. I thought it was really funny and I thought it was good. And it adds more into the story, like I said. It adds just another little element into things. Arthur is stronger than I expected. Already talked about that when doing the summary, but yeah, was not expecting Arthur to be able to hold back Yuan Sung after Yuan Sung blew past Dorian so easily. The Karaka and White scene really genuinely shocked me. I'm totally Team FUG for life. I friggin' love FUG. So yeah, that was really badass. And I think what I was mentioning before that I said I would get into now, I think that Siyu could have written a really good way of showing how much danger Bomb was in. Like, what we saw or what happened was we see this attack coming from Sharon. Bomb tries to desperately, and she's a high ranker, so it's a crazy freaking attack. Bomb tries to block it by using Black March, but Karaka blocks it, and White just kind of shrugs off getting hit by something in the back. So I feel like this may be a clever way of showing how much danger Bomb was in, was that Bomb's attack wasn't even enough to do anything to a high ranker, or a high ranker level person rather, in White's case. White just shrugs it off. Comparing that to him being attacked by a high ranker, we can assume that perhaps if Karaka hadn't jumped in, Bomb would have been totally overwhelmed and just basically demolished by that attack from Sharon, which both make sense logically. Bomb's a regular, only a third of the way up the tower. Even with all his power-ups, he still has a way to go, and by the time he gets to a high ranker, he's going to be incredibly OP, but he's still only a third of the way there, compared to not just an attack from a high ranker, but those marine fairy blade things seem to be kind of one of Sharon's strongest moves. So getting one of the strongest moves of a high ranker sent at you. So I think that's a really clever way of showing how much danger Bomb was in by just that one remark from White. So then we have the Calavan and Jinsung stuff. Like I said before, I think this could be one of the most iconic Tower of God fights, and I had thought about this after reading yesterday, because, I thought about this chapter a lot yesterday. But one of the things I thought about was, when I think about iconic fights in Tower of God, or iconic moments, when it comes to iconic moments, there's definitely some stuff from the past, like when Bomb reunites with Rack for the first time, or obviously the betrayal at the end of Volume 1. But when it comes to fights, if someone told me, name iconic Tower of God fights, there wouldn't be any that weren't super recent. Like, Bomb had some okay fights before, but if you were to tell me, name iconic Tower of God fights, the first things out of my mouth would have been Bomb versus Joaquin, Bomb versus Kaiser, Bomb versus Dada Zahard, and now I think probably I would also add in Jinsung and Calavan. So I think what the difference is that there were cool fights before this, but before his fight with Joaquin, Bomb never had any fights when it felt like he was in a ton of danger. There was the time he got shut down by Elliot, but Elliot's group was just trying to escape. There was the time when he was kind of semi-defeated by Daniel, but all that caused was for him to absorb Daniel's abilities. And before that, it was his fight against Reflejo, and even though Reflejo was cool and everything, Bomb, Rack, and Kun, this was their cool reunion moment where they could just work together and take him down. But when it came to Bomb versus Joaquin, he very easily could have died there, or could have lost allies there. There was a lot at stake. And then comes along Bomb versus Elaine, or Bomb versus Kaiser, which was probably the most difficult fight he's had, in terms of he was getting his ass kicked really badly, and rather than getting a power-up like with other fights where he was getting his ass, or maybe he was like struggling a little and then he gets a power-up and mows through it, kind of like his fight with Joaquin, to be honest. He didn't get any new power-ups. It was about, he was getting his ass absolutely kicked, and we were getting to see Bomb more injured than we've ever seen him, and yet he overcomes that by improving his skills. So there was that fight, and then after that having Bomb versus Dada Zahard, which was completely amazing, getting to see Bomb use his true powers, and it was very similar to the Kaiser fight, where Bomb was getting his ass kicked and having to step up his game again and again, and come up with a new power-up or version of what he had again and again, until finally using his ultimate move, the Stardust. So yeah, I would say those three. And it's a shame that I just now remember Heljo and Uruk Mazano. It's a shame, yeah, I don't really think about that as much as I think about those kind of like the trilogy of Bomb fights that we have had in this Hell Train saga. So, yeah, that's what I think of, and I would say Calavan and Jinsung, I would totally put it up there with them as something where I feel like way down the line, it's what I'm going to remember as one of the defining fights for Tower of God. Especially if this is Jin Sung's death, because his death could be a huge moment, and I think it is. I don't want spoilers, obviously, but I personally think this is the end for Jin Sung. And I guess it's not the end for Caliban. He has a hole through his chest, so I don't know how he's supposed to survive. But he said, it would have been lethal if you followed up with another attack, which makes me think, okay, this hole in your chest isn't lethal. So Caliban's going to survive somehow, it seems. So that was a bit weird. I don't know how either will live, but it seems like Caliban will. And then Machete was written really brilliantly here, because it's just a devious Kun family member. This is such a Kun family thing to do, what Machete did, because it seemed like she was going against her orders. Her orders were to kill Jin Sung. It seemed like she was going against her orders to kill him in order to help him, but what she really did was know that he would go to stop Caliban, so she tricked him into weakening himself fighting Caliban so that she could, in the end, achieve her goal. In the end, she did what her order was to do, which was to kill Jin Sung. So Machete gets the credit, she gets the win, and might even get a rank up because of this. It's so devious and literally backstabbing that it's great. It is such a good way to write the character. So, yeah, man, there's just so much smart writing here, with just adding little things in that are important, like White's comment, or like Andraste leaving Rachel behind. The addition of small things like that is good, and then just the way that characters like Machete were written, the way that Caliban and Jin Sung were written, how big and like important the fight feels. It feels like it's one of those turning points that could turn Jin Sung into the, I don't know if this would be spoilers at this point, but into like an Ace or a Jiraiya or something, and totally turn Caliban into the Pain or the Sakazuki. Because, I mean, again, being the sibling disciple that kills the master, or also being what I was saying that I see for Caliban in the future. What I see for Caliban is a Sakazuki-like role, where he is the big military leader that the protagonist is going to have this personal resentment towards, and someone that they're going to have to overcome before they can get to the king. And I think that's what Caliban's role in the story will be. He's going to be someone that Bam saw is, he's part of why Jin Sung died, and he's going to be an obstacle that Bam has to overcome in order to get to Zahard. He's going to be kind of like one of Zahard's last walls of defense. So I think that's a really cool place in the story for the character to be. So again, and this is really early on, setting up a late game enemy for Bam. And yeah, I guess that's it. Oh, also the Machete thing, this could have also been a distraction, but I'm not so sure now. The goal seems to have been to kill Jin Sung, but if she could also distract Caliban enough to let Yuri's group escape, that maybe benefits her in some ways. Because like I said, if Yuri gets executed, then other princesses might get those 13-month series, but if Yuri can escape and Machete can win her bet with her, then Machete gets the 13-month series. So it might actually be beneficial to her to allow her to escape, so she might have killed two birds with one stone. I mean, hopefully not literally. I don't think she's also killing Caliban, but she could be. She could kill two birds with one stone here. So yeah, that would be it. My thoughts on it. I think it's amazing. It's one of the best chapters I've read. I always forget the actual number of it, but I don't think it's better than the finale of Bam vs. Joaquin. That's probably still the best chapter in the series ever. But this is up there with chapters like that, with Kaiser's backstory chapter, with Bam vs. Kaiser in general, with Iniesta and Ron. Some of the best chapters that I've read, this is up there with them. This is a Transcendental chapter. So I'm giving it 11 Transcendental chapters out of 10 because it transcended my scoring scale. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. And I hope you enjoyed the chapter too. I always love it when people enjoy Tower of God. I try to spread it as much as possible and get other people to read whenever I can. But either way, if you did like the video, comment down there to tell me what you thought of this chapter yourself and what you thought of my thoughts on it and stuff. Subscribe for more. Tower of God, much more on the channel. Follow on Twitter if you want. I can try to keep you updated there and stuff for the channel. And if you want a link to our Discord server to talk to me or more of us there, then just ask and I can give you a link to it. So that's it. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.